Okay, welcome to How We Get Fat Part 2. So, the storage of fat. The first place that fat is stored is within our cells. Most of that is found in what is called subcutaneous fat, which is found under the skin. So, subcutaneous fat is fat which is found under the skin. So you can remember that by S for subcutaneous is S for skin. There is also fat which is stored around the gut. This is called the visceral fat. This is the most dangerous place to have high amounts of fat as it can affect the efficiency of the organs. So fat that's around the organs is visceral fat. This doesn't necessarily. This can be the most dangerous because it's like say on the slide that the fat is surrounding the organs. So if you haven't got good functions of your organs, then it's going to lead to future problems. Fat can also be stored in really bad places like the liver and pancreas under extreme conditions. So this is called ectopic fat storage. So ectopic is fat which is stored in the liver and the pancreas, and this is the worst kind. So in order, the subcutaneous fat. So the subcutaneous fat is we need a minimum amount of subcutaneous fat, and it's natural to have this. And then the visceral fat is more frequent in the obese population. So this is fat which is found deep within, and the ectopic, which is something you'd have to get scanned for or screened for. It's not something you can just kind of find out like off the spot. You have to go and get screened for it. So subcutaneous fat. There is a term called fat balance. Now stick with me on this one if it gets a little bit confusing. Don't worry because it can be a little bit. Basically your fat balance is fat stored versus fat burned. So the overall change in how much fat you lose is fat stored minus fat burned. So if you store more fat than you burn, you will gain fat. If you consume more fat than you stored, you will increase fat stores, basically. If you burn more fat than you consume, you will reduce fat stores. So basically, you want to turn this on its head. You want to burn more fat than you store. So what determines how much fat we burn and how much we store? So when fundamentally, fat gain will occur when fat storage exceeds fat burning, and fat loss will occur when fat burning exceeds fat storage. So fat burning and fat storing take place in some amounts throughout the day, controlled by a host of processes which we don't want to talk too much about. It's hormonal and it can be quite complex. So basically fat burning occurs some parts of the day. Fat storing, that's meant to say storing, occurs at some parts of the day. This is just natural. Just understand that what happens over time in terms of fat storage comes down to a relationship between fat storage and fat burning. So obviously if you're constantly storing more fat and your fat burning is very low, then over time you're going to store more fat. Very simple. Part 2, that's all I want to keep it at. So the question in part 3 is what determines fat burning and fat storage rates?